I would say if I had to give any advice to a first-time home buyer, like there's a lot of things I would tell them, but a lot of realtors will say like, find you a good lender, which is very important.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, and understand your finances. But I think we underplay the value of a realtor. Hey, Bobby.
Hey, Angelina.
How are you?
Man, fantastic. How's it going?
Good. I'm really excited about our conversation today.
Yeah, likewise.
Yep. I'm ready to talk about some first-time home buying. I don't know if you're excited as I am.
Oh, super excited. It's one of my favorite topics.
Okay, great. I bet you're awesome with your first-time home buyers.
Man, I have so many, but one that always sticks with me is one from probably maybe 12 years ago or so. When I first kind of moved to Austin, I sold a new construction home, which as an agent, I thought was super easy. And it really was. The process was the builders take care of so much of the process, and they offer great incentives for the buyer, pay down interest rates, all the different cool things. But one of the things I learned in that was the taxes on unimproved land when they're buying off of a payment. That was a big thing because I got a call from the buyer a year later when his taxes got reassessed that it was on the new improved value of the property, and his payment jumped up several $100s a month, and he wasn't prepared for that. And I was still a green agent at the time. I'd been doing it a few years, but I was kind of part-time here and there. But that was a big lesson, and I always prep everyone when doing new construction now with that.
That's something I think a lot of agents that are newer, they miss that. I remember understanding that one time before we actually went under contract. And it was also when I first had started. And the tax records were so low, or the taxes, and then it jumped significantly at the end because they're doing it based off of the true percentage and the value. Whereas like when we do resale, that's not the case, Like we always tell clients, we're like, hey, this is not, you don't take the percentage of the tax rate to the sales price. It's just a smaller portion of it because of the value increase over time. But how did your client handle it? What did they do?
I don't know personally how they took care of it. I think he just absorbed the new amount, but it was a big difference at the time, especially being so young. He was very smart and bought, I think, at age 21 or 22.
Wow.
But yeah, it was, luckily he was also family.
Do you still talk? Do you still see him?
Yeah.
Okay, good. It's one of those cases where don't work with family. No, I'm joking.
No, but it turned out to be all right. At the end of the day, he recently sold the house.
Yeah. Oh, wow.
So
he's been there 12 years?
Yeah. So at the end of the day, he made out just fine.
Okay. That's great. I actually just closed a first-time home buyer. I typically will work with, I work with a little bit of a range of people, but first-time home buying is usually the most I have worked with. I think it's because I just love to educate. And I just had a closing with a client who we've been looking for almost 3 years.
Whoa.
I know. Under 300,000. And she really wanted to be in Georgetown because that's where she is from, born and raised. And needless to say, we started about almost 2 years ago. And she was like, just kind of like breaching, like kind of discovering the idea of buying. And she still was living with her mother whenever she just closed. So this is going to be like her first place. And she's a single mom. And it was one of my favorite experiences. I would say as far as that experience goes, what I really appreciated about her was that she trusted me and she stayed patient. And we started when the pandemic was just going nuts.
Yeah.
And she was getting outbid in like Gerald and Taylor for wild. $250K homes, And the whole time we just stayed patient, We didn't give up. She had a great lender. And then fast forward, as we were in our sales meeting and listening to Tyler talk about, how this is a great opportunity for first time home buyers, I called her. I didn't hesitate. And I think that's a lesson that I've learned as the years have passed. I think we sometimes feel like we're putting too much pressure on a first time home buyer by telling them like, hey, this is your opportunity if this is what you want to do. But I think because we built so much trust, I believe that's why she was very receptive to it. Mm-hmm. I called her right after that sales meeting and I said, hey, I really think this is your time. It's either now or I don't know when you're going to have the opportunity again within, the next year or two. So she listened. And we found an off market in Georgetown, like ready to go. She doesn't have to do anything. She got it for under $300.
Wow.
Right by Southwestern, right by her daughter's school. And she closed last Friday. And so to me, that's like, it's under $300. It's far, it's Georgetown, but I would rather be doing something like that and helping a client educate herself. And I think the biggest takeaway for me with her was there was some hesitation there for her right when we found it. And I would say if I had to give any advice to a first-time home buyer, like there's a lot of things I would tell them, but a lot of realtors will say like, find you a good lender, which is very important.
Yeah, absolutely.
And understand your finances. But I think we underplay the value of a realtor and the buyer's agent and who your agent is. And I think that it's this like known thing that sellers interview agents, but buyers don't think about it like that. They just are like, oh, well, I'll just take whoever, And I think especially for first time home buying, the agent is so crucial because they're kind of like your quarterback to everything.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? Like they're the ones that are going to be the one educating you along the process, being kind of where how this is, where they're therapist, and that's okay. I always tell my clients up front, our job is to mitigate your emotions and help you make a solid decision because it is going to be emotional.
Absolutely.
And so for her, right when we found this house, she was kind of hesitating and she's like, I don't know the payments. And I said, well, the payment I wouldn't pressure you in one way or another. But when you really look at it, look at your rent and look at what rent would be and look at what your payment would be. They're almost the same. Now you got to think, if you're that conservative with your money, do you want to give your money away or do you want to grow your money? And I told her, I think sometimes like people don't realize like how it's such a personal transaction, like the outside, not us realtors. We get it, right? And I remember talking to her and saying, like, you do deserve this. If this is really what you want, this is your time and you deserve it. Don't forget that. Yeah, and wow. She's got a great job. She's in legal for the state. She does amazing. But, it's something you don't think about when you haven't had it. Mm-hmm. So it's a little overwhelming. And I think it gave her some ease to say, okay, I can do it. And I think helping her along the way with each step, like actually laying out the steps, is been so helpful too for my first time home buyers.
Absolutely.
What are your steps like with your first time home buyers?
I kind of like to have it as just a conversation, kind of like what we're having now, and ask some questions and kind of not to qualify them for my own sense to see if I want to work with them, but really it's for them to make sure that they're ready to go or that they're like financially prepared. Because, you hear ideas of zero down programs and stuff like that. And some of that's cool depending on your situation. If you're going to maybe plan on living there for a long time, or you have a family, you want to freeze it and that's going to be your home. Mm-hmm. But I think if you're looking for the short term, make sure that you have some money to put down, explain the process to them. One of the biggest things to me that's always come back is not explaining some of the out-of-pockets.
Yes.
In the process. Mm-hmm. You got your inspections, and not just your inspection, if there's any other additional inspections you want to do, pool inspection, septic tank, right? It costs money to get a septic tank looked at, and some people overlook that stuff. Getting your homeowner's insurance now is a big thing while you're in the option period, just to make sure you can get the house insured.
Yeah.
Me and my last buyers, we had a running joke. It was like 500 here, 500 there for all these different things. But yeah, really, it's I kind of like to keep it casual, and low stress, because some people can get overwhelmed with it, and especially if they're watching the headlines. What you hear on the news, it's also just a snapshot in today's time, right? Like today is not tomorrow. So if you can help them zoom out and look at the whole picture and try to find out their goals, that's really where it starts first with us.
I think that's a great high level of how you would approach it. I have like 10 steps, but my first 3 steps are usually like when I'm talking to somebody that's a first time home buyer, and they're like, okay, we really are ready to buy. We just don't know what to do, which is usually like the case. You know, before I got in real estate, it was such a different language to me. It's overwhelming. You know, there's a lot of nuances if you're not in it every day. And so the first thing I always tell people before you talk to a lender, before you do anything, get your finances in order. Put your finances in order. Look at your savings, look at your spend, and look at what you're comfortable spending, because a lender is going to lend you whatever they see they can lend you. They don't know your budget. They don't know what you spend. They don't know your car. Like, they don't know how much you spend on groceries. They don't know the little things. They will, but they won't factor that in as a financial planner would. You know, so you got to look at what is your comfort. The next thing I always say is find the good realtor. That goes back to what I was saying earlier. You know, somebody who is going to be patient, who's going to understand what you need, who's going to be an advisor, not a salesperson. I think that word is kind of going by the wayside as technology evolves. There's so much information. Consumers want somebody that can just kind of summarize and help them digest it all. There's so much online.
Yeah.
You know, so find a good realtor. And then 3, I usually say is the lender. So I guess I'll say the 4th thing, which is one of my favorites, is your needs and wants before we look at a house. And the reason I do this is because first time home buying, like we were talking about, any buyer is emotional. Even us realtors, like we get emotional when it's our own properties or our own investments at times, you know. But a needs and wants list is going to help them when they're looking at houses to kind of give themselves a checkpoint, you know, versus just kind of flying off. It's overwhelming already. You know, you're looking at so many houses and there's so much to digest, what areas and all of that. But your needs and wants list is going to help us kind of narrow down the specifics.
Yeah, kind of prioritize what's important, so you're not out there searching for the unicorn that everybody wants.
Absolutely. And a lot of times clients will be like, oh, really? I'm like, no, really. Get a piece of paper out, write a list, needs and wants. So those are some of my top favorites to do with my clients. And I have felt like it has just been so much easier to kind of guide them, because at the point that they get to that point and they're with the lender, and before they get with the lender, I always say, like, make sure get all your documents prior. Do you do that?
Absolutely.
I started doing that a few years ago. You know, I didn't tell my clients right away, get all your documents right away. Just talk to the lender first. And I realized like how much more smooth the transaction will go, and for the lender when they have everything up front when they do the application.
Yeah.
You know?
And and it's not everybody, but some people have like income that they forget to put on there and that's part of the process, and is included what you can afford.
Yeah.
Cool. Angelina, this has been fun getting to chat with you. Sounds like your clients have a great experience working with you. If I wasn't licensed and I knew you, you seem like you, I know you know the process. I see you here every day putting the work. I hear you're on the phone.
Thanks.
So it's cool to get more insight on your process.
Same to you. I really enjoyed talking to you about this, because I know as realtors, you know, first time home buying it's a special thing, and you have a big heart. And I think that anybody that's working with you is so lucky, and they should be grateful to have that guidance. So I'm really grateful to this. Thank you for talking with me.
Yeah.
Yeah.